Hi, guys. This is Mrs. Lamb, and today I am going to talk to you about the Aztec Empire. So, these notes are Ancient Latin America, Part 2. And just like what we did yesterday, you have skeleton notes to fill out, and you are filling out the words that are missing out of your skeleton notes, and those words are shown in red on my presentation. So, where modern Mexico City now stands, at one point there was a lake called Texcoco that covered that entire area. And there once was an island in that lake that was known as Tenochtitlan, which was the capital of the Aztec Empire. With as many as 200,000 inhabitants, Tenochtitlan served as the capital of the Aztec Empire, and you can see it shown on this map right in here. And again, it was located in the middle of a lake. The lake still exists today, but it's much, much smaller. It does not cover that entire area. And in fact, that area is now Mexico City. So the history of the Aztec. The group that eventually founded the Aztec Empire was called the Mexica. They migrated to the Valley of Mexico in the middle of the 13th century, so that would have been the 1200s. The Mexica began farming for a living, and in 1325, they founded the city of Tenochtitlan on one of the lake islands. During the 1300s, the Aztec gradually grew in numbers and military strength until they controlled the region. Aztec warfare and religion. The Aztec Empire centered on warfare. All able men, including priests, were expected to join the Aztec army for two reasons. The first was to maintain a powerful empire, but the second was for religion. The Aztecs believed that anyone who died in battle had the great honor of dying for Huitzilopochtli, which was the Aztec god of war. And this is supposed to be a representation of Huitzilopochtli. And this is another representation out of stone of that same god. And yet another. And one more. Okay, so Aztec agriculture. The Aztec held great power over their empire. One reason for their success was that the island location of their capital protected them from attack. However, much of the island was marsh, which posed a major challenge to farming. So marshland is not land that typically would grow crops. So the Aztecs, being resourceful like they were, found a way to still farm, even though they didn't have a lot of good farmland. So they built what were called floating gardens, or they called them chinampas. And that's where they grew crops. So they literally had land held together that would float on that lake, Lake Texcoco, that they would do their farming on. So as you can see, they're held together with different types of twigs. You can even see remnants of these today. Like some of these are still held together today. I mean, obviously that's not how they farm in Mexico now, but I think it's just interesting that the Aztecs were able to overcome the problem of not having good farmland by creating good farmland. Human sacrifice. It is estimated that approximately 20,000 people per year were sacrificed by the Aztec royalty. Captives were taken to the top of pyramids where, upon a ritual flat stone table, they had their chests cut open and their hearts ripped out. Then the bodies of the victims were tossed down the steps of the pyramids. The scene to both the Spaniards of that time and to us today is truly gruesome. This is just a illustration that shows, here's the person at the top of the pyramid on stone having their heart ripped out while they're still alive. So yeah, it's pretty brutal. The conquering of the Aztecs. So in 1519, Spanish explorer Hernan Cortez and more than 500 Spaniards landed in eastern Mexico in search of land and gold. Cortez learned of the gold that the Aztecs held and set out for Tenochtitlan. Again, Tenochtitlan was the Aztec capital. After wavering about how to respond to the Spanish force, Aztec ruler Montezuma II allowed Cortez to enter the city in order to learn more about him and his intentions. That proves to be a costly error, obviously. Finding a large amount of gold and other treasure and fearful that the Aztec would attack, Cortez's vastly outnumbered Spanish force, Cortez seizes Montezuma as a hostage. So they take Montezuma prisoner. The Spaniards melted down the intricate gold ornaments of the Aztecs for shipment to Spain and forced Montezuma to swear allegiance to the King of Spain. Montezuma's death. The Aztec warriors tore up the city's bridges and chased the Spaniards into the canals, where 3/4 of them, weighted down with stolen gold, quickly drowned. I think that's kind of interesting that the Spanish, some were so greedy that they had all this gold in their pockets, and then they ended up drowning because they couldn't keep the gold and swim to get away. So this is the first invasion by the Spanish of the Aztecs. So the very first invasion, it does result in Montezuma getting killed, but the Aztec Empire was not conquered right away, not in 1519. Montezuma was killed during the revolt. Montezuma's successor, Cuauhtémoc, ruled only a few months before dying of disease. And then Montezuma's nephew, Cuauhtémoc, became the next Aztec ruler. The Aztecs' crude weapons were no match for the iron, steel, and gunpowder of the Spaniards, who also had the advantage of a large number of indigenous allies. What I mean by that, indigenous are people that are native to that land. So they're other Native American tribes that sided with the Spanish. Why would they do that, you might ask? Well, think about the Aztecs and how they performed the human sacrifice and how they sacrificed a lot of people every single year. Think about where they got their victims. So the Aztec would go into other surrounding tribes and villages, and they would take people hostage and sacrifice them. So other Native Americans did not like the Aztecs. So they were willing to team up with the Spanish to destroy the Aztecs. This just shows a Spanish warrior, Spanish conquistador fighting an Aztec warrior. So the fall of the Aztecs. So again, the very first invasion in 1519 resulted in Montezuma's death, but the second invasion where Cortez comes back in 1521, this actually marks the end of the Aztec Empire. So it was 2 years later. So the Spanish come back, they invade Tenochtitlan, overthrow the Native American Empire. On the ruins of Tenochtitlan, the Spaniards built Mexico City. The city's present-day cathedral rises over the ruins of an Aztec temple, and the palace of the Mexican president stands on the site of what was once the Palace of Montezuma. And that is all that I have for you today. I hope you got all of your notes filled out. You're going to want to make sure to keep these. You are going to need these at a later time. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day.